And I raised my hand and said, I would love to be able to contribute to this project. At that time, I was in more of a product marketing focused role within the team. So this was definitely outside of my regular job description or purview, but it was a massively pivotal moment in my own career as I look back on that moment now, because who in marketing is not responsible for some portion of the technology and their tech stack now, even if it's only as day-to-day users, maybe not the person who's coming in and implementing the whole system. But it was really like a point in time in my career where everything changed. I would almost say it's like a sliding doors moment of if I did not get onto that project, my career would have taken a completely different trajectory.
Welcome to Marketing Your Way podcast, a show for women in marketing and creative fields who are ready to rethink what's next. I'm your host, Amy Hanan, marketing strategist, agency owner, career mentor, and once upon a time, a corporate VP of marketing. This is your go-to space for career reinvention, whether that means launching your own business, pivoting into freelance, or finding a role that finally feels like a fit. Each week, I bring you honest stories, actionable strategies, and mindset tools to help you move forward with clarity and confidence. We'll also dive into what's actually working in marketing right now, from personal branding and client acquisition to AI tools and emerging trends shaping the future of our industry. And just in case you're wondering, yes, this podcast comes with a Ukrainian accent and a whole lot of straight talk, because it's time to build a career that works for you. Let's dive in. What happens when you raise your hand before you're ready and it completely changes the course of your career? My guest today, Amy Hanan, is a global marketing leader whose journey is a masterclass in curiosity, courage, and connection. From her early start at the museum to executive roles across media, fintech, and compliance, Amy's story proves that growth doesn't come from waiting until you have it all figured out. It comes from saying yes, showing up, and learning as you go. In this conversation, Amy shares how building authentic relationships has shaped every career opportunity she's had for over a decade, how she continues to reinvent herself through continuous learning, including how she uses AI in her work, and why you don't need an MBA to reach the C-suite, just a willingness to keep evolving. Let's dive in. Welcome, Amy, to Marketing Your Way podcast. I'm very excited to have you here with us today. And let's start with a fun note. Who was 7-year-old Amy? What did she want to be when she grew up?
Hi, Anastasia. Thanks so much for having me on today. And I'm excited to get into some of these questions as well. This one is interesting for me to think about because I already shared with you that I have a 7-year-old daughter. And so I see so much of myself in her right now and how she's starting to think about the world. But we do have different opinions on what we wanted to be when we grow up. For me, when I was 7, I really wanted to be a wildlife biologist because I was in love with Jane Goodall and all of the work that she was doing with chimps in Africa. And so I wanted to do something similar and study cheetahs. This was not something I ended up pursuing in any kind of way, but had a woman role model that I was looking up to in the professional world from early on.
I love that. So let's fast forward a little bit. How did your career begin, and what was the first spark that pulled you toward marketing?
Yes, my career began really in earnest after I moved to New York City about a year or two after I graduated from college. And I can't say that I was proactively looking for a career in marketing. It wasn't something that I was choosing necessarily. I think I fell into it. And then along the way, discovered how much of all the various disciplines and functions of marketing feed so many different aspects of myself that I find fulfillment in. But it wasn't something I was thinking about right away. I was studying English literature when I was in college, and my dream job had changed over time. I wasn't thinking about being a wildlife biologist anymore. I was thinking about becoming either a book editor, working at a major publishing house was a dream, or perhaps becoming a literary agent, which is more on the commercial side of book publishing. But I was thinking, wouldn't it be great to spend my days reading books and discussing them and the concepts and why they're important in the world and helping those books get published and gain more readers. It's not where I ended up either. Either any of those dreams did not come true, but where I really started learning more about marketing was when I was hired at the Lower East Side Tenement Museum here in New York City to build out a brand new events program hosted in their gift shop and community center space. And I have to recognize Helene Silver. She was the woman that was running the shop at the Tenement Museum at that time. And she saw something in me and hired me for this role, which, as a young 20-something woman who had never held a position like this, she definitely took a chance, but it was an opportunity for me to build something completely from scratch. And not only was I responsible for planning out what this program would be from a content perspective, but also sourcing all of the authors and the speakers, working with publicists and publishing houses to bring these people into the space, but then the marketing of it. How do you get people to know that these events are taking place, to get them to attend that day and have a great experience, to recommend the program or the museum to their friends and colleagues? And I was really, a one-person shop for all of that. Nobody was telling me what to do. I had to figure it out along the way. And I think it was such a foundational learning experience for me. I'll be forever grateful for that first experience.
Beautiful. Like looking back, there's always a person. In my case, it also was a woman who took a chance on me and gave me an opportunity to grow within the field that I didn't have the experience yet. I graduated with a business degree, so very broad business administration. And I was in that time in human resources recruitment side of business. And then I lived in New York at the time and moved to Miami and realized that I don't love that industry. And I was very young. It was just 2 years after college. And so it was easy to switch at that point. Anuka Valverde, if you're listening, you are the one who gave me an opportunity to join the marketing team. Kind of, that's how my career in marketing began. So I feel we always have that sponsor in our careers that speak up and mentor, sponsor, whatever that looks like, that speaks up for you when no one is watching. And those people they shape who we are. And it's amazing to see sometimes as a person now that we give opportunities to others, and maybe it doesn't really cross our mind, but also we are hopefully playing a little role in where they are becoming as individuals, right?
Yeah, I have to share, sometimes I run into Helene, even though I joined the Tenement Museum in that role in 2005. So it's been a minute, but I will run into Helene at our shared hairstylist salon. So every once in a while, every couple of years, maybe I run into Helene and we have a nice catch-up moment. She was definitely a mentor to me in that first role, in encouraging me to try new things, to be creative. When I have an idea, go ahead and run it down and see if you can make it a reality. She continues to be, I think, a terrific person.
Amazing. Yes. And I love that you have one place that you're going to see her, hopefully, when you go. That's awesome. So during our coffee chat, we talked about something that really stuck to me, and I really want our listeners to take to that moment. I mentioned something in my newsletter that I send out, I mentioned our conversation in that newsletter, so it definitely stick with me. So you mentioned that you raised your hand for projects outside your job description. Can you share a moment when saying yes before you were ready shaped your career?
Yeah, I also remember that point in our coffee conversation. This will fast forward a little bit in the timeline of my career, but when I was at a company called ALM Media, I had joined at a time where there was a lot of quote unquote digital transformation happening within the media industry. ALM Media is a trade media organization. And they focus on the legal industry, reporting on the legal industry, on how the legal industry operates, both on the law firm side and for in-house legal departments. And just as there was a lot of transformation going on within the business and how media services are being delivered at that time, there was also a lot of change within marketing. And at that point, I had been within a dedicated and focused marketing role for a handful of years at that point. And in, I believe it was 2012, about a year after I joined ALM, was when the executive team had made the decision to implement a marketing automation platform. At that time, it was Marketo. And this was still very early on in larger organizations starting to adopt and implement this type of early technology. And when the executive team had come into the marketing department, which was about maybe somewhere between around 20-ish people, they said, who would like to lead this project? Implementing Marketo, really learning it for the organization and on behalf of clients that we would be servicing through the Marketo platform. Who wants to do this? And it was crickets in the room. And I raised my hand and said, I would love to be able to contribute to this project. At that time, I was in more of a product marketing focused role within the team. So this was definitely outside of my regular job description or purview, but it was a massively pivotal moment in my own career as I look back on that moment now, because who in marketing is not responsible for some portion of the technology and their tech stack now, even if it's only as day-to-day users, maybe not the person who's coming in and implementing the whole system. But it was really like a point in time in my career where everything changed. I would almost say it's like a sliding doors moment of if I did not get onto that project, my career would have taken a completely different trajectory.
Yes, I was one of the early adopters of like all of the automations when I was at my full-time job, and it opened up different opportunities or different departments to look differently at my job and what I'm doing at the company. So definitely can relate to that raising your hand is such an important message that we throughout all of our careers until even now. Even when you own your own business, you have to raise your hand to try different things, to reinvent yourself sometimes. But yes, it's such an important message and such an important lesson. Besides your regular job, you add on an extra level and no one took away things that you were doing at your regular job. You just added to your plate at that point. But overall, it changed the trajectory. I'm sure in the company as well, the processes that you were able to streamline between departments and all of that. So that's amazing. I'm currently implementing the same thing, but with AI, and then trying to automate as much as I can in my own business. So yes, I feel like when you start with that, you cannot stop. You're like, okay, what else can I automate? Is there anything else that can make my life simpler by not doing the manual work? I love that. Quick break to tell you about one of my favorite tools for simplifying the behind the scenes of my business, Make. If you ever wished you could clone yourself to keep up with all the admin tasks, this is the next big thing. Make lets you connect the apps you already use like Gmail, Airtable, Slack, or Canva, and build automations that run on autopilot. Think new client sends a contract and instantly their info gets added to your CRM, a welcome email goes out, and a Slack notification pings your team. all without you lifting a finger. Here's the best part. You don't need to be techy to set it up. Their drag and drop interface make it simple to create workflows that save you hours every single week. It feels like having an extra team member working 24/7. So if you're ready to free up your time and focus on the creative, strategic work only you can do, head to marketingyourwaypodcast.com/make to start building your automations today. That's marketingyourwaypodcast.com/make. Once you try Make, you'll wonder how you ever ran your business without it. So you've moved, besides just cross-passing in between departments in the organization, you've moved across industries like media and fintech, legal, compliance, and now consulting. What guided your decisions to step into something new each time?
Yeah, I think a lot of those industries are also interrelated to each other. I think on the surface, they sound very different, but as an operator and a practitioner, once you're there, there's a lot of commonalities. For instance, a lot of the industries that I have worked in tend to be highly regulated industries. There are also industries that require a high degree of subject matter expertise within the product set and the service set. And that part in particular is something that really interests me. For me, when I'm moving in and amongst these different roles or different organizations, having that company be grounded in an industry that is intellectually challenging to me is a huge plus. It's not just a plus, it's a requirement. I need it. I think I had shared before in our coffee chat that I love the diversity of marketing. I love the variety of different disciplines and skill set that you really need to be a successful marketer. And that a lot of that keeps me going, but I need that extra layer of this industry is intellectually challenging to me. And I don't have a background in finance. I don't have a background in legal. I don't have a background in compliance, but I learned all of these when I was in companies that were squarely in those industries. And I found it fascinating. I know that's not maybe something you hear all the time if you're not, a practicing attorney. Of course, you would hope that they find their work fascinating. But items like, legal frameworks and regulatory frameworks, compliance, even financial services and how markets move. These are the things that are foundational in everybody's lives that impact everybody in so many different ways. And being able to dig into that as a head of marketing for a particular marketing function, I find super interesting, and I need that. So that's always part of my consideration set. Is it challenging enough for me to keep up with the industry itself?
Beautiful. You're right. Like when you were saying that, yes, it does sound different on paper, but overall it's very regulated industries. And yes, absolutely. All of the industries you worked with. So interesting. So you mentioned that nearly every role in your last 10 years came from your network. What's your philosophy on building and maintaining relationships?
I think it's about, when I was really thinking about this, I think it's been every role for the last 11 years has been within my network. And I don't know if I would describe it as a particular philosophy, but there are always so many people within the company that I'm at that I find to be incredibly smart, incredibly capable, really interesting people that I also enjoy working with. They make the day-to-day experience of working better and they make it fun. If you have a meeting on the calendar and you're scanning the participants for the meeting and you get a little excited because that one person is going to be there, that's a good sign. So I look to, develop relationships with those kinds of people. But we have to think a little pragmatically. I don't know anybody who's stayed in one organization for the entirety of their career at this point. There will be movement. People will move around. They'll join other companies or they have their own networks as well. And they hear of things. They hear of opportunities or different roles that might be opening up in other ways. So I look to those people that I think are smart, that offer something a little different, that always ask the interesting question. Or if not the interesting question, they ask a question when nobody else will. And like I said, I like to find those people and attach myself to them in some way. But the relationship piece is two ways. It's not that you're always looking for somebody to give to you. You also have to provide something back to them and nurture that relationship, even if it is, being the person that they're a sounding board to, offering an extra ear when they need it, or helping them with a project on the side. It could even be, supporting an idea that they raise in a meeting, not because, not solely out of selfish purposes, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Like, oh, I'm supporting your idea because ultimately I want to be able to get some kind of referral or favor from you in the future. No, it has to come from a genuine and authentic place. But when you show up for people and you offer yourself in like the best way, like that's where the relationship comes from. Continuing to check in, just check in.
Yes. Thinking back right now, when I started my own business, all of my clients are referral clients. It's either the clients that I've built relationship with from my previous positions, and then they referred me to their friends, to their family, to their clients also. And that's how my business model is built on, is really the referral business as well. So it's interesting, right? And I love what you're saying, that it has to go both ways, because you cannot build the relationship selfishly needing something from that person. It's always about building those truly relationships, that it's not about, that something will come out of it. It's just genuine connection, genuine supporting yourself, and having a bestie at the company that you work with. It's the best thing. It's a completely different experience when you love people who you work with every single day, right? So not necessarily a bestie all the time, but if you love people around you and you surround yourself with good people, it makes all the difference.
And I mean, people are always looking for that one great hot tip that's going to unlock these relationships with them. The reality is, somebody can open a door for you. And there are so many people in my own career that have done that for me. And I've only named one person so far. I can name a few others as well. So many people have opened the door for me. I still had to walk through that door and deliver on the other side. But you're not going to get far in your relationships or far in your ability to develop a meaningful network if you don't deliver on your end. And like I said, Helene Silver opened a very important door for me. I would also say Lori Morris at the Associated Press opened a door for me big time. And Lenny Izzo opened a door for me, a couple of doors for me, both at ALM and at my most recent organization, LRN. And I can't end that list without also adding in Ken Gary opening a couple of doors for me as well. He's a serial door opener for me.
I love that. Okay, well, shout out to all these amazing people in your life. So for women who are listening and feel a little nervous about networking, what's more natural way to approach it?
Yeah, I know that word networking can sound really intimidating, especially if you are earlier on in your career, and especially if maybe you consider yourself an introvert and you don't always know exactly how to break that ice, which I will say, I identify as an introvert. It is not my preference to be delivering a keynote presentation to a room of 500 people, but that is something that I got to do in my last role that ended up being really great. But for the networking piece, just like how I've built my network, and I was talking about some of the people that have opened doors for me, those are all people that were in my organization at the time. I always start from where I am. Networking can be done inside of your own company and your own organization outside of your marketing team. One of the things that I love about marketing as well is how it is the integration point for the entire company. not just in my role as the chief marketing officer, but in all the various levels of roles that I've held in my career, has required me to partner with and collaborate with colleagues in other departments, in IT, in finance, in product, in data and analytics, in content or editorial when I'm in organizations that do that kind of thing. You name sales, of course. I mean, I can't leave sales out, or revenue operations now, or how many other different departments are there. They all do come together in marketing at some point, and looking to those colleagues to better understand what their day is like or what their priorities are or how the projects they're working on connect to the larger corporate strategy. I mean, that's a great place to start the networking, especially amongst your colleagues at the same peer level as you. Right? So say if you're a marketing manager within the marketing department, who are the other managers cross-functionally across the organization that you don't know yet? Then maybe you could schedule that virtual coffee, or if you're in the same office, step out and have a coffee together. Some of the referrals within my network where I have sourced role opportunities from over the last 11 years have not been marketing. Actually, when I'm thinking about it, 0 of them have come from a marketer. They've come from colleagues in other departments. That's a great place to start. And then I always encourage people, and this, I know we're going to talk about learning as well, continuous learning. I always encourage people, if you have the opportunity, get out and go to conferences, trade shows, events that your company is organizing or that are relevant to the broader industry that your company operates in or serves clients within. These, of course, I mean, that's where everybody is. It's a terrific place to start networking. Again, it could sound scary. Oh, I got to go into this exhibit hall reception, or I have to walk around the halls and see if I can bump into somebody. Everybody else is pretty much thinking the same thing though. So if you're the person that just has that 1 or 2 icebreaker questions and you walk up and get the conversation started, everybody is relieved. Everybody is relieved. And then you become known as the person who's willing to get the conversation going, and people will start to come and find you.
I love that. Yes. I am introvert myself, even though I'm doing the podcast, right? And I'm meeting a lot of people and doing a lot of virtual chats, but my nature, I need to reconnect and be quiet for a little bit. Well, after the big gathering, or sometimes I actually do go to the restroom, not because I need to, but because I need 5 minutes to myself without talking to someone. But at the same time, outside, I like to talk to people. I love to learn what they do and everything. And if I were to give a little piece of advice for someone who is a little nervous, I would also say, come up with your elevator pitch of what you do. So that question, because everyone asks the same question, like, oh, so what do you do? So have a good answer for that question and have a good follow-up question to that elevator pitch. That's the easiest thing you can do when going networking outside your organization. And I love the idea about networking between different departments with the same peer level. I don't remember where I saw that, but probably on LinkedIn. One of the companies, they were offering $100 gift card every single month to people to use to do something with somebody from the organization. It could be going to dinner. It could be going to get their nails done. It could be going to get a facial done. But you have to do it with someone from the organization so people can meet each other and network, because we all know the importance of the great work is done when people actually enjoy working together and they like who they work with. So that's a really good point. And a lot of times, as you said, like it's really about networking outside your department as well. Another point that I really found interesting is that you mentioned that nowadays everyone is moving around so much, right? That nobody is staying within the same company for the wholeness of their career. And I'm looking back at my parents, and my mom was at the same company for over 30 years before. And it's just part of what the generational differences are. And now I look and I feel like, yes, I'm millennial, and we tend to stick around for quite some time before we make a move, meaning like 3 years, 4 years. And then we look at Gen Zs, and those are the people who are really like, okay, next. What is next for me? I mean, of course, I'm generalizing a little bit, but it does come with age and what people are. We have the mentality of work comes before life. And I think with Gen Zs, we talk about life comes before work, that we we live first and then we work so we can support our life. So yes, that's something I wanted to mention. We're switching topic a little bit, but what really stood out to me after we had our virtual coffee chat was that you mentioned something that you are proud that you never got your MBA. Can we talk about this a little bit?
Yes. And it's not because I'm anti advanced education. I've just been a little busy and I never quite felt like I could make the space for that level of commitment, but absolutely appreciate and congratulate those that do. Shout out to my sister, my younger sister, who did complete an executive MBA while she was working full time. So kudos to all those folks out there. But for me, I I like to think it's a point of pride for myself because I didn't study marketing. I mentioned I got my degree in English literature and never thought that I was going to be a business leader in my career. And yet this is where I have found myself. Didn't formally study marketing. I do not have an advanced degree in marketing or business or communications or an MBA. And yet I have been able, just like you have recapped, I've been able to pivot amongst a handful of different industries. I've been able to advance in my career and grow my role over time to incorporate more functions, more management, more leadership. And it's all been on the job, hands-on learning along the way, stretching and getting into those projects that nobody else wanted to do, doing the things outside of my own job description, going to the trade shows and conferences very early on in my career. It is, again, I think it was so fundamental to where I've been able to take my career over time is getting that early access to conferences and trade shows to hear from experts in those fields and the business leaders in all of those fields. Talk about the issues of the day, what challenges they were facing, how their individual businesses were thinking about them and addressing them. It was amazing. Those are all master classes. And you're just absorbing all of this information along the way. In addition to, taking advantage of learning opportunities within my own field, within marketing, reading books, signing up for the newsletters and actually reading them, listening to podcasts now. I'm an avid podcast listener and talking to my colleagues, getting into these smaller network groups that I have now. I have a very small collection. I would even call them my leadership board, people that I can go to over and over again and talk to about some of the challenges that I'm facing in my own role or a problem I just can't seem to get the right angle on a solution. And these are the people that I can chat with and they can offer up some suggestions for me now. But it's all of those things together that have contributed to being able to get to that highest level marketing leader role.
Absolutely. I haven't gotten my MBA here in the United States either. And one of the reasons was because your experience kind of speaks for itself. So when you're early on in your career and there is an opportunity to take MBA, absolutely do so, especially if the company is paying for you to do that. However, the more you go into your career, the more you learn. And it doesn't make a difference to have MBA on your resume if your experience speaks for what you accomplished at your previous positions, speaks for itself, if that makes sense.
I mean, to me, it's not about theory. It's about practical application. Do you know how to do the things that get the job done? And you don't always learn the practical application in an academic setting. You need to be out in the world getting challenged with a certain project. But it goes back to Who do you know in your company can help you? For marketers, highly recommend you make some friends in the finance department. Go chat with your FP&A person and ask them some questions about P&L planning or how forecasting is being structured for the next quarter, the next year. What's the budget process like? These are things that are not typically discussed within a marketing team, especially in roles that early career marketers are sitting in. But this is the type of information and education that's really going to unlock a lot of different types of thinking for you and help you be a better business partner over time. I've had great sales leaders and partners that have worked with me along the way, where I'm at the point where I'm co-creating budgets and target plans and helping to define territories, which may not be something that people immediately think of as being a marketing activity, but as a marketing leader helping to shape the strategy of the company and helping to drive the business forward. You do need that kind of language and ability to work on that side of the house.
Absolutely. It's important to understand, right, how your role contributes to a bigger picture and also know what the bigger picture is, because sometimes we don't ask that question, right? Like when you are interviewing for a job, knowing what's the goal of your position is that contributes to the overall success of the company is very important, because that will tell you how to prioritize your tasks. I don't know any other department that has more to-do things on their list than marketing department, because there's always something new that comes out. There's something new to learn. There's some new program to figure out. So just seeing what the big picture is, asking the right question and prioritizing your to-do list on how to contribute to that bigger goal of the company overall is what makes a big difference.
That's a great networking tip as well when you're looking to network within your own company, is asking what's important to you. And then is there something that you can offer that helps them with that most important thing to them? Even if it's time, even if it's a recommendation for something else, even if it's, I love connection points, not just for people I'm networking in the company, but networking in general. Connection points. Oh, you mentioned this thing. That's so interesting to me. Have you heard of this? Or do you know this person? Can I make an introduction for you? Can I send you the link to the podcast I was just talking about that you liked? Those are easy little trades of value that then help to build up your bank that you can draw on later.
Absolutely. I know that, like, to come back to MBA for a second, what I found the most value in within the career is also listening to podcasts, finding the right people that are experts in your field and learning from them, and also doing some very specific online courses relating to the field that you would like to learn about. And now that brings me to the next question, because now we have an overload of information with AI. You can ask AI any question you desire, and it will give you all of the information you need. However, we are living in kind of overload of information. And even if you do not know what to ask, you can have AI ask you questions to figure out what you need to ask in order to get the information you need. So how do you utilize AI in your work right now, or your team's work? And what does that look like for you?
So in so many marketing tools and softwares and applications now, there's AI embedded already. And so, yes, if I use HubSpot a lot for my clients, for my own organization, HubSpot has a whole bunch of different AI components already embedded within the platform. Or if you're using Drift as your conversational tool on your website, there's a whole bunch of AI embedded in that you can leverage to surface better answers to some of the questions that might be coming in through that chat interface. Almost any tool now has some kind of AI component. Keeping up with all of that is hard. And just like you said, there's so many new features and functionalities, being released every month in whatever set of tools that you already have on board. It's hard to keep up with that and to feel confident that you're fully leveraging the value that's already there for you. I also use, all the prompt engines as well. I've been starting to develop really deep prompts. I'll spend, a half an hour, 45 minutes even, developing a single prompt before I put it into the particular engine that I'm using, ChatGPT or Perplexity or Claude. And that's where I'm seeing the value now, is going deeper on the quality of the prompt and then refining from there on the outputs that I'm getting, and having those prompts be a little bit more strategic in nature. For me, in my role, I'm not, say, using ChatGPT to draft emails for me. I'm not doing that. But sometimes I do need help thinking through the narrative structure of a keynote presentation that I'm delivering. And I will use ChatGPT to help me come up with that. Or I have what I think is a really great framework for an ABM strategy for a client that I'm partnering with. But there's something that's saying to me, there's something missing. I just don't know what it is. I feel like there's something I'm not completely getting here. I'll craft my prompt around that, I'll put it into ChatGPT and help to identify where maybe some gaps are in my own framework, in the strategy, the approaches, or even some of the benchmarks and the research that I've already put into it. It helps me to identify those gaps and then work from there to kind of weave it into the rest of the strategy that I'm documenting. So those are a couple of ways. I don't know if that completely answers your question. It's hard. It's definitely hard to keep up. You just got to pick a couple of spots and then go deep on that.
Yes. And the more I know that I don't know. So that's one of the reasons I joined this membership, which is, it's called AI Playbook. And it just talks about more on how the case studies of using different tools between not necessarily the language models like the ChatGPT or Claude, but also how to use the automation software and plug in those tools within it so you generate the actual product based on the proper prompts, but also automations and all of that. So it takes a long time to figure out. However, I see the huge value for my business right now by doing a lot of this deep learning. So this is kind of where I am in my business. I am trying to automate as many workflows, even with the podcasting, right? There are many steps that are manual that doesn't need to be manual that much because it's kind of the same steps that I'm repeating. So I'm trying to take it to the next level. Yes, I still use them for the things like you mentioned, especially identifying some gaps. Those are the most important things, and also interpreting data. That I start using because I do a lot of real estate marketing and there's some data involved with that. And that helps me kind of understand that without diving very deep into the research, what that means, what the numbers mean. So that's been very useful for me as well. And I'm testing out Claude. I've been always ChatGPT girl. And with the ChatGPT 5, I don't know, it was kind of breaking for me. And I just I don't know. I don't like you very much anymore. So I started with Claude and it's been interesting. It's definitely, it talks different.
There's been a lot of published commentary around ChatGPT.
Right? Yes. I have strong feelings. So who are OpenAI, please take notes. But yes, it's part of the kind of figuring out what works for your business, right? So now we come into the fun questions, okay? And I know this one is the most difficult one probably out of all of them, but what's your favorite pizza place in New York City?
Yes, I had to think about this for a second, and also whether I was willing to share. But I'm going to go with, and there's a lot. I mean, anybody who's been to New York knows there's a lot of great pizza places to choose from. I'm going to go with Cuts and Slices in Bed-Stuy. They have very unique toppings for their slices.
Love it. Okay, I'm going to try it out. Favorite city?
Favorite city is also hard because I feel like I have to say New York City. This is my home. I've been here over 20 years now, and anytime I'm away from New York for a couple of days, I definitely feel that homesickness to get back. But I am about to go on a business trip to London. I'm leaving tomorrow, and that is probably my second favorite city.
Oh, I love it. We went with my family 2 years ago and stayed next to Borough Market, and that was the best place for us to stay because we travel usually around food. So highly recommend. Go to Borough Market, have those strawberries with chocolate and all kinds of things that they have. Everything is delicious. Mantra you live by.
Yes. I bought a piece of artwork a couple of years ago when I was feeling really down. I was not in a great place. And I saw this piece of artwork. It sounds kind of silly, but every day when I walk by it and I see it, it makes me happy. It makes me happy to look at it. And what it says is, "You're doing great, bitch."
I
And
love
it's like
it.
little puffy bubble letters. It's kind of like 70s style, kind of look and feel to it. And like I said, I have it hanging in my kitchen. It's a large format. Anybody who comes into my house kind of does a double take when they see it. I never explain it to them. It's just there, and yeah, it makes me happy every time. Marketing is a really hard job, especially marketing in this century, in the 2000s. So much has changed. It's so demanding. The pressures of the role and the function are so great. And it's not just the pressure to perform, it's that added pressure that everybody thinks that they can do it better than you. And you don't get this in a lot of other functions in companies. How many people think that they can be a CFO better than their current CFO? Probably not a lot. Not me. I've never once thought that. But how many people in the company have thought, I could run marketing better? I could do that marketing campaign better. Everybody considers themselves a marketer. It's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure. And having something like, "You're doing great, bitch," as a reminder, it makes me happy. You could hear I'm smiling now.
Yes, I can totally relate to how demanding our job is. Of course, you make it as demanding as you wish on yourself. It's another level, right? Every person takes the challenge differently. Yeah, I think I'm doing a pretty good job in the last 3 years that marketing is not an emergency, even though everyone needs it for yesterday when they request it. It's still like we're not saving lives. If I'm just all about this mentality right now because I used to have an anxiety of all the deadlines that I had and all of like trying to deliver them at one that it's requested. I still deliver them on the deadline, but I do a double take on the deadline request. I'll ask, okay, when are you traveling? Is this one you need for that day before you travel, or is it you need that for the day of the presentation that's 3 days after you travel? Because everyone wants to give you the deadline that's more comfortable for them, so they have a little more time without realizing that how much time you need to deliver that, right? To deliver a good job, because you want to have something, a piece of work that you're delivering that will bring that other person business, because usually that's what marketing tools are for. And yeah, so it's a very demanding job. Favorite business tool?
Favorite business tool? This is a hard one because I don't want to say like a piece of marketing technology that I'm using all the time. And I want to be able to say maybe my favorite business tool is the airplane, because I love being able to travel and meet clients in person, to meet my colleagues in other offices that might be far away from my home base. I love going to, I've already mentioned, conferences and trade shows, and I wouldn't be able to get there unless there were airplanes. But I believe so much in that, getting out into the market, being client facing, meeting as many of your colleagues in person, or your clients, all these people in person, is so important. totally irreplaceable, pays dividends as you go throughout your career.
Yes. One leadership book or podcast you recommend to women in marketing?
Yeah, so I'm also an avid podcast listener. So choosing one is hard. In particular for women in marketing, I think Coaching Real Leaders podcast is excellent. It is put on by HBR. And it's hosted by Muriel Wilkins. There's a few seasons out, or a handful of seasons out of this, but it's such a great format as well. Muriel interviews a particular leader who has a challenge that they need to address with a challenge that they've identified in their own leadership style. Or ability to lead through a particular challenge in their organization. And she does like a 1 hour coaching session with them. And they go so deep. It is fascinating. And I've picked up so many practical tips for myself along the way.
I love that. I have to check it out. I haven't heard about this podcast, so it's going to be on my list. So if you could go back and tell early career Amy one thing, what would that be?
I think it would be to not be afraid of showing more of myself at work. When I started out in my career, and I mean, it's still the case now, for the most part. I have tended to be the only, or perhaps one of two women in the room. And earlier on in my career, working in corporate environments where people tended to be, 15, 20 years older than me with a lot more experience behind them, I felt like I had to mute myself in certain ways, dull it down a little bit. And I think if I could go back and tell myself to, not be afraid to speak up in those meetings, right? To ask more questions earlier on, that would have been particularly helpful. That if you have been invited into the room, it's to serve a purpose and it's not to be silent. Nobody ever gets invited to a meeting because the other meeting participants want you to be completely silent and non-participatory. And it's not that I wasn't absorbing information or taking my notes and taking in all this information. I was learning the whole way through, but I wasn't actively participating in those early sessions. And I think it was because, I was afraid. I was afraid a little bit.
Yes, I remember starting my career, and also I also had a little bit of a language barrier that I saw that I have. So it would be a little intimidating for me to speak up at first. And then little by little, it kind of went away because you realize that it's really about bringing value. And even if you are taking notes and you are like in an assistant position and you're there just to take notes, the fact that you can ask the right questions and take really good notes will bring you farther, because people do want to receive a very well written recap of the meeting. Was the steps that everyone needs to do, having a plan and everything, and that's what they expect you to deliver. And I got really good in those notes, and then it became to a point where people would come and ask me questions about the meeting, and then it gave me kind of a permission slip. Hey, you can actually speak in those meetings too. And that was one of the things that helped me with the promotion.
Yes, except now those people are being displaced. Everybody
Yes,
has
that's
the
true.
AI note taker. So we have to figure out a different way.
Now you have to speak up. Now there's no more choices, no more taking notes. So I love having you. This is such a beautiful episode showing how you can build your own career. Even if you imagined it to be, you graduated college and you had one perception of how this career trajectory will look like. You have to have open mind and go through the doors that other people open for you. And then you'll build this very fulfilling career that maybe when you graduate, you didn't think you would have in whatever industry that is. So, Amy, where can people connect with you and follow your work?
The easiest place would be LinkedIn. It's just, LinkedIn / Amy Hanan, easy to find, and happy to connect with people. Send me a message and we can get a separate conversation going.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for your time, and I hope to have you back soon.
Thank you, Anastasia.
And that's it for today's episode of the Marketing Your Way podcast. I hope you're walking away with fresh ideas, new insights, and the confidence to take your next step. If this episode spoke to you, please take a moment to leave a review. It helps more women in marketing find the show and build a marketing career on their terms. And hey, don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Until next time, keep building your marketing career your way.